Bag and stuff back here. Put your badge with your bag too.
Go for it. We can in fact bring you another one if you think you need to go through two. So these are camping chairs, that's fun, but they do roll and spin, and we do kind of recommend if you can, with this, like this, or roll around.
Don't do this?
Preferably not. Yeah. This is being live web stream recorded.
Okay.
All that good stuff, and so that way we can keep you in camera shot.
Can I do this before the camera?
Yeah, you can do it right now.
Get it out of your system, yeah.
Usually people bring it, but we've had some people who like are like that, like actually during the, and you're like,
Oh, stop it. Please don't.
This is an awesome chair. I know. I'm like, I don't want to take a chair home with me.
Actually, with the shot, she can twirl around.
Oh, really?
Don't encourage
You didn't hear that. So we'll need to get the mic on you. I don't think it's live yet, so you're still good.
All right.
And Jonah's kind of become an expert at getting people to
You can go ahead and put that by your side, maybe underneath your legs so it doesn't fall. And let's
I
see.
thought you were saying don't twirl because you don't want to get everything tangled up.
That's good. We're going to put it on your jacket.
Oh, on my jacket. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. Right there. Your
All
hair's
right.
not going to touch it.
Because we're
Actually, hold
web
on.
recording, Jonah's going to repeat questions from the audience so that it gets into people on the internet can hear it.
Oh.
Because otherwise they can't hear the audience.
Okay.
Hear what's coming through your speakers.
All right. Awesome. I feel like
Hi everybody, room announcement time. We're about to start the panel, running a little late, so we can do this fast. Please put your cell phones on silent. All right, photography is fine, flash photography not fine. Please don't record. We are webcasting live, which is cool. Also, for you guys who are on the very edges of these seats, if you can just maybe squish in a little bit if you're
Hey, how's
comfortable.
Jimmy
Just that way
feeling?
some people come
Still a
in
mess.
and
Is he going to come in?
Oh, I meant to tell you he can't. He's in the. I'm so sorry. He's
No,
not
it's
going to
okay.
make it.
I-
Thank you
so-
for reminding me because
No.
I was just, I forgot
I know
to
he was
tell you.
miserable, and you were running
Yeah.
and getting him therapy fluid
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, he's still in bad shape, and I'm like feeling a headache coming on. I'm like, please tell me I don't have what he has. Oh God, that would be bad.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Here we go. Welcome to the Secret Origins Room at Emerald City Comic Con. I'm Jonah Weiland from Comic Book Resources. Sitting to my right is one of my favorite artists, and not just an artist anymore, definitely a writer as well, Miss Amanda Connor. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's a number of places I could start at, but you know what? We're going to actually start at the beginning, because as I was researching you, I was learning a little bit more about you. I was absolutely shocked to learn that you worked, I didn't know you worked as Bill Sienkiewicz's assistant.
Yeah.
Now, if any of you have ever met Bill before, he's probably one of the most beautifully brilliant people in comics. If you see his artwork, you definitely see that. It's not like anything you've seen. And then if you talk to Bill, you realize Bill is his artwork in a lot of ways. And I'm curious, like that was almost not your introduction to comics. You were a comic fan and you worked in a comic shop, but that was your first job in comics, right? Outside of the comic shop.
Well, outside. There was the comic book store that I worked at, and then I worked for Bill. I apprenticed with Bill. So technically that would be like the first like non-retailer professional comic book work that I did, because I did help him on a few backgrounds here and there.
Okay. Talk about those early days with Bill a little bit, if you would. Any fun, crazy stories?
Well, a lot of fun, crazy stories. He's like a tornado. He's an artistic tornado. I would go into his studio, you know, each day in like early afternoon, and you could tell he had been there because everything was just like, you could tell like a really artistic person had just been there and did his business, you know, and it was amazing. And then you would see these beautiful, you know, it was just like a whirlwind had been through there, and then you'd see these beautiful pages. You know, he would do entire gorgeous pages in one night, all night long. And I think the funniest story that I have is I used to model for him, and I got to model as Elektra Assassin. And
that kind of kicks ass.
I know. I was like, I get to be. And the way that came about is the guy who is my ex-husband now and I dressed up as Bullseye and Elektra one Halloween, which sort of like tells you where our relationship went. Instead of Daredevil and Elektra, it was Bullseye and Elektra. So, but our costumes were pretty darn good. And I was showing the pictures to Bill, like, look at our costumes. And he's like, that's an awesome Elektra costume. He's like, you got to model for me because I'm working on Elektra Assassin. But I didn't start modeling for him until issue number 4.
Okay.
And if you look at, you know, all of the issues together, you see that she looks like this tall, willowy Greek goddess, right? With the long black hair and everything. And then by the end of the series, it's like me in a red scarf, like, hey. So.
What did you learn from Bill back then?
I learned not to be so precious, you know? It's like the process is, you know, is one thing, and then the printed piece is another. And when I had gone to school, we were all like, oh, don't get your thumbprints on it, and, you know, make sure that everything is, you know, nice and clean and perfect. And when I worked for Bill, it was, you know, he's all about the process. You know, he would use thumbprints as art and sneaker prints as art and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to be so precious about it. And, you know, just do the work, do what you got to do to get to where you want it to be, and if it looks the way, you know, or almost the way you want it to look, then you've done your job. It doesn't matter how it's done. You know, you can use a Hershey bar if you want.
Sure.
So.
Okay. I'm going to jump around all over your career.
That's fine.
And now I want to come to the present, because there's
Okay.
2 pretty big events in your life in the present. The first one is, and this one shocked me, you and Jimmy just got married.
Yeah.
Everybody in the comics industry,
Thank you.
everybody in the comics industry just assumed you guys were married.
Yeah, they, you know, it's funny because, and I'm doing exactly what you told me not to do, would swing around in the chair, and it's like so hard not to, because it feels so good. We were engaged for 13 years, and we dated for 4 years before that, I think, yeah, 4 years before that. And we were having so much fun being engaged that we were just like, why screw it up with getting married, you know? So we just enjoyed being engaged. And then in August, we were just like, I had been thinking about a wedding for so long. And I'm like, how are we going to pull this off? There are like so many people we know, and it would just be a gigantic production. And Jimmy came up with this brilliant idea. He goes, well, your relatives are going to be in town in August. Let's just surprise them. And I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea. And then it was my idea to do it on a boat. So we chartered a boat. And we said to my family, we're like, come on, it'll be fun. We chartered a boat. It'll be, we'll have a good time.
They didn't know?
And they didn't know.
Oh my gosh. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
So So it was like a whole, it turned into a little mini production, but somehow I had to convince my relatives to wear something nice on a boat in the middle of summer in Florida. And I'm like, it's not a fishing trip, it's just a nice sunset cruise. Wear something nice so we can take nice pictures. And convincing my dad not to wear one of his filthy, shirts with the, t-shirts with the pockets on it, which he loves. He loves those shirts. But he has, stuff all over them. And I'm like, Dad, just wear a clean shirt. I'll be satisfied with a clean t-shirt. Yeah. And so he's like, okay. And it was a big catamaran, but the bathroom was like a large capsule, and you had to sort of duck down, and it was August in Clearwater, Florida, and my cousin knew because she was helping me get ready, and she's like fanning me with a mirror, and I'm like sweating, and I'm trying to peel out of what I was wearing originally, which was nice, into my cute little bride outfit, and I'm trying to put pantyhose on because I found awesome pantyhose with tiger stripes on them, and my cousin's like, it's August in Florida. You don't have to wear pantyhose. And I'm like, I have to wear these. They're awesome. They're sticking to me. I can't pull them up. And, I finally wiggled into everything, and everything was sticking to me. And, my hairstyle was going south, and my Aunt Mandy was like, your hair looks so nice for a boat trip. And I'm like, uh-oh, So my neighbors knew, too, because one of them is a notary public. And he was the one who was marrying us. So he's like, hey, everybody, I want to talk to you about something, right? And he starts talking, and my dad's standing there with a plate of food going, man, for a guy who's 6'1", he certainly is a lightweight.
Just thought he was drunk and just started,
right.
oh my God.
Started babbling, right? This is all happening while I'm trying to wriggle into my bride outfit. I wouldn't even call it a bride gown because it was like a little dress with, little big sequins on it. And while he did that, I finally got everything on, and I sort of popped my head out of the little porthole where the bathroom was, and my dad's standing there with his plate of food, because my dad is always standing there with a plate of food. That's what he does. That's his job. And, his Coke, and he's looking at me, with my little head, And now I have a little sparkly thing, which I didn't have before, and he's like looking at me like confused, like, what the hell is going on here? And that, I wish I had a camera on me so I could have taken a picture of my dad's face. Yeah. Because he's looking at me, and then he's looking at Dean, and he's looking at me, and he's like thinking, this sounds like a wedding. And he looks at me, and he's like, oh. So I pop out a little porthole, and I'm like, hey, and everybody's like, oh my God. And Jimmy and I just went, and Dean married us, our neighbor. And my family was so happy because finally we got married, and they'd been talking about it for years. Oh, they're never going to get married, So, yeah.
I've never heard of a surprise wedding.
Yeah, it was we called it a reverse engineered elopement. Instead of running away and having a secret wedding, we kidnapped everybody and had a secret wedding. so yeah, it worked out really well.
It was such there were a couple of photos that ended up online. It was such a Miami wedding too, and Jimmy's there with his white shorts and his flip-flops on.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. And he took the industry by surprise. Most of us didn't know.
Everybody thought we were married because we were just together for so long.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it worked out well though.
So the other big event in your life lately is having one of the top-selling comics in the industry right now with Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
And, when they announced the book, they said, Amanda's going to be writing it. And the first response from everyone was like, why isn't she drawing it? We want to see Amanda draw it. And so I think a lot of people underestimated that series, but it sold like crazy. Did you expect it to be this big?
I knew it was going to be big because I know everybody loves Harley Quinn, but I didn't know it was going to be as big as it is. I thought, it'll do well, I think. Right. But it did really well, and I was shocked. Yeah. I was like, all right.
Yeah, the first 3 issues, 0, 1, and 2, were in the top 10 in sales in the direct market. Number 3 came in at 11. So really, your first 4 issues were top 10 comics, basically.
Yeah, we were shocked. We were just like, really?
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
Do you think it's just Harley Quinn? Do you think there's something maybe more going on here?
I don't know. I mean, people have been hungry for a Harley Quinn comic, I think, And I think another thing is we're trying to inject a little bit of the goofy Harley fun back into the character. You know, we want her to be, like the flavor that Paul Dini and Bruce Timm gave her. You know, she is a psycho killer, but she's a lovable, fun psycho killer. And it's important to remember that about her, you know?
You know, no artist is ever satisfied with their work, but you develop a confidence over the years that at least you know how to approach things.
Right.
As a writer, do you have that same level of confidence?
Nope. No, I'm like, it's like, you know, starting new all over again. I mean, I know the ins and the outs because I've been working with scripts for so long, but there's still a lot of growing pains for me because it's brand new. I mean, not brand new because I've written a few things here and there, but doing a monthly book is brand new for me.
Right.
And it took me 8 months to get through 4 issues of Spectre. And just because it was so new to me and I wanted everything to be so perfect, and I still have to get beyond that wanting things to be so perfect attitude because I'm not getting any sleep. And it's important to get sleep.
Talk about Silk Spectre a little bit, because you worked with one of the masters in the industry on that book, Darwin Cook. What did you learn from him? Were there any lessons from him, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are any particular lessons that I learned, but I know I'm better at it now than I was before because of that book and working with him. You know, if I had like gotten into this, you know, gone into Harley without having done that series, it would have been way more difficult.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take some questions from the audience. We're going to pepper them in and out. So if you've got any questions, go ahead and throw your hand up right now. Does Harley have a question? No.
But she looks good.
She looks great. I saw a hand go up back there. Go ahead. Where are you and Jimmy hoping to take Harley Quinn?
We don't have any particular thing. I mean, she's very crazy. So we're approaching the script that way. It could go in any direction, you know, and that's how we're approaching the character, is you never know what to expect from her because that's the character. You're always like, uh-oh, what's she gonna do now? You know, you should be frightened because she could just, you know, fly off and do anything. And I always think of Harley as the person you love to read about, but you don't want to hang out with because it could get you killed.
Let's talk about your time at the Kubert School. Because when I think about the Kubert School, I think of this as like a magical place that creates some of the most amazing artists in comics. You were one of them. You attended there. And that was a school that existed. There are multiple schools that teach sequential storytelling now. But when it started and when you were there was nothing else like it out there.
Right. Yeah, it was. I think they had some sequential classes at School of Visual Arts at the time, but it wasn't like a full-blown school. It was just some classes that you took.
Right.
This is like a full-blown school, you know, for animation and comic books and everything like that. And it was a lot of fun because it was still in the old building. They had this big old mansion before they bought the old high school, I think, that was in New Jersey, in Dover, New Jersey. And it was so cool because we all, you know, I had never been with so many people who were into all the same things that I was into. And I think that was the magic of the school. It's like, oh my God, there's a lot more people just like me, not just my one really good friend in high school where we would he ended up working at Marvel for a while and DC, and we were comic book buddies in high school. And I've known him since I was 13 years old, and I still keep in touch with him. And his name is Steve, and he really, really got me into comics. I was kind of into comics, but in high school, what we would do is we would draw during math class, and then we got to art class. Instead of draw, we would read comics. So we were never doing what we were supposed to be doing. But he was my comic book buddy. And when I got to school, I found out that there were so many more people like us, which is what I found out about conventions. I'm like, oh my God, it's a whole bunch of people just like me. Yeah. And the only thing that disappoints me about conventions is that I can't get dressed. I don't have time to get, you know, into costume for them. I'd like to be able to get into costume.
Yeah.
And I just don't have time in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to get ready, you know, be in a costume, and, you know, it takes some time.
Any other questions out here? Go ahead, you, sir. This is a good question.
There's
I think it's a
definitely
topic we're going to get
change.
into about women in comics
Yeah.
and the changes you've seen over the years.
There's definitely a change. There's way more females doing comics now than there was when I first got in. There were some. There was, Wendy Peeney, and
And Nascenti?
and Eccc was doing it, and I'm brain farting on it, and I can't, and she's so awesome, and I can't remember her name right off the top of my head because now I'm trying
Colleen?
really hard. There was, I think Colleen was brand new, and she was
It's Colleen Duran.
yeah, Colleen Duran, and oh, why can't I think of her name? I'm so embarrassed because she's so awesome. I'll think of it 10 minutes after this interview is over. But they're so, they were all so awesome, but there were very few of them. And when I got into comics, Joe Kubert at the school told the whole class, he's like, you're going to have the worst time getting into comics. It's so hard to get in. It's not that big of an industry, and there's a lot of people trying to get the same job. And it's just going to be ridiculously hard. And I went in with the mindset that it's going to be ridiculously hard, no matter what. Boy, girl, anybody is going to have a really hard time getting a job. So I had gone to Marvel in DC about 6 times before finally, somebody going, okay, we're sick of you bothering us already. Here's an 11-page backup story. It's pretty, your art's finally pretty good. Here, have at it. And so I did the little 11-page backup story, and I started at, I can't even remember what my page rate was, but it was, the starting rate, the really low starting rate. And I was like, yay, I got my first job. I was so happy. It was Solo Avengers number 12, the Yellow Jacket story. And then I got little tiny jobs here and there. Archie, I worked, Marvel was doing Barbie comics, so I, started getting more and more work, the first couple of years. And there still weren't that many women in the industry. And what I had noticed is that there weren't that many women, and also with my ex-husband, I had owned a comic book store at the same time. Women didn't come into the comic book store. It was almost all boys and guys. And I'm like, probably women aren't, trying to get comic book jobs because they don't read comics. And if you don't read comics, you don't usually look to get a comic book job. And so I thought, if you get more girls to read comics, more girls will want to start drawing comics. And, it's a long 20-year process, and now, for the past 15 years or so, there have been more girls reading comics. So now more girls want to start drawing comics. And it just sort of snowballs. So now you're seeing more girls actually drawing comics and writing.
Are you comfortable, because you are one of the premier female creators in comics. You are one of the most visible, you've been one of the most successful. Do you take on a mentor role, or is that something you're not comfortable with? With younger women.
I'm not comfortable with it, but I do it anyway because I think it's important.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do they want to learn from me? I'm going to screw them up. So, but if people do, if young girls come to me and ask me to look at their artwork and give them a critique, I will do it because I think it's really important to do that.
I actually was first became acquainted with your artwork through a little series you did that I don't know if anybody's read in here, Soul Searchers and Company.
Oh yeah.
A little independent thing that you did with Peter David ages ago.
Yeah.
When you look back at your early work, like on Soul Searchers and Company, are you satisfied with any of it? Do you see that younger woman, and the excitement there, or do you just go, oh man, that stuff is crap? Because a lot of artists do that.
Both. Yeah, I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I really screwed that up, But I also remember, and I'm always trying to keep that, and it's really, really hard after doing it for so long, that sheer joy of your very first few jobs. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna, come at me, world, I can handle it, and I wish I could get some of that excitement back. But it's really hard to, because now it's like, now I have way more work than I ever thought I was going to have, which I'm really happy about. But at the same time, it's so hard to take, the time to stand back and go, oh, this is really cool. It's just like, hurry up, your deadlines. But yeah, I think it's important to every once in a while stand back and go, I have the coolest job ever.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
All creative people, they can all get caught up in their own head a
Yeah.
little bit too much, and then
Yeah.
they start doubting themselves, and then they forget the fact that, well, we're working in comics, or whatever that
Yeah.
creative field is. Any other questions from the audience? You, sir.
You've proven for years your chops as an artist, and with still Spectre and Harley Quinn, now proving your chops as a writer too. As people are realizing that you're awesome, are there more titles that you're looking at branching out into? Right, you've given Harley Quinn. Are there other things that you're looking at drawing and/or writing within the companies?
What other things are you
Yeah,
looking
I
at
mean,
drawing?
you know, I have fantasies about, you know, every once in a while, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do next? I want to get creator-owned stuff done first. I do have a creator-owned that's been sitting on the back burner because I've been so busy with DC work. It was announced like 2 years ago, Captain Brooklyn, that I'm working on with Jimmy and Frank Thierry. And I need to get that one finished because there are so many other things I want to tackle, but that's my first commitment, you know, to, you know, get my DC work done because that, you know, that pays the mortgage and buys the toilet paper and feeds my cat and Jimmy and I.
Yeah.
I'm dying to finish the creator-owned stuff, and then there's another creator-owned thing that Jimmy and I have been talking about for years that I want to get done. And then after I complete those two commitments, you know, I want to do more Harley. I want to do more Power Girl. I want to, you know, eventually do She-Hulk and Tigra. You know, my fantasy is to do a Power Girl She-Hulk crossover, but they don't do, you know, Marvel DC crossovers anymore. So,
Yeah.
you know, aw. And so, but yeah, you know, I always think about stuff like that.
Speaking of creator-owned, one of my favorite things that you've ever done is with Garth Ennis and Jimmy, The Pro, which is also one of the most offensive comics I've ever read.
It's wonderfully offensive.
It is wonderfully offensive, and I think it took a lot of people by surprise. And this is an example of maybe a little bit of sexism towards you. It's like, wow, a girl drew that comic? Because I heard that a lot when that book came out, and I got to admit, like maybe even I felt that a little bit, but it totally changed my opinion of who you are in a good way. And what you could accomplish. Talk about The Pro and what attracted you to that.
Well, well, it started out as a really drunken night in Germany.
As all good stories start.
Yeah, exactly. And it was Garth Ennis and John McCrae and Jimmy and I was sick. I had whatever Jimmy has now. He's not able to make the convention, unfortunately, because he's got the creeping crud or whatever it is. And, you know, to an Englishman, you don't stay at home and, you know, eat chicken soup and drink hot tea when you're sick. The cure is to go out and instead of having beer, you have hot toddies and hot ports. So, you know, we were at a convention in Germany and I didn't stay in and, you know, eat chicken soup and tea like I was supposed to. I would go out with those guys while they had beer and I would just be downing hot ports and hot toddies. And we found a bar called Fitzpatrick's. And we're like, oh, look, it's an English bar in Germany, yay. And, or an Irish bar in Germany. And the fourth night that we went there, we realized the name of it was Fitzpatrick's. We were just like, this is crazy. This place is getting crazier. And so we were all drinking, and I was coughing and drinking. And we were talking about, you know, how funny it would be if a hooker had superpowers. And we're like, that would be hysterical. And then we're like, wait a minute, we're comic book creators. We can make this happen. So we ended up making it happen, and Garth gave us a script, and Jimmy and I read it at the airport, and, you know, we were cracking up, and people were like, why are these two laughing so much? And I couldn't wait to tackle it because I had spent years trying to shake the Barbie artist image. You know, I was, oh, she's that Barbie artist, right? And I'm like, this is going to do the trick. Nobody's ever going to call me that Barbie artist again.
No.
So once that book came out, they were like, oh my God. And I always, you know, enjoy shocking people a little bit. So I tackled it like, yay. I was so excited to, you know, to do that book. And it's still, you know, people still love that book.
It's a great book.
Thank you.
It is shockingly good. And I'm not one who offends easily, and there were moments where I kind of covered my face like, oh boy.
Oh, they went there. Oh, no. Oh.
I saw another hand up over here. Go ahead. You?
Your characters are so full of life, and I just wanted to ask if you're heavily influenced by animation at all. Because every time I see it, I want to see it animated.
She's asking about how, she made the point about how your characters are so full of life, and are you influenced by animation?
Yeah. Yes. In fact, one of my heroes is Chuck Jones. I love him so much. He's and he's actually one of my dad's heroes. And my dad and I used to, you know, Saturday morning we would watch the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour. I think that's what it was called in the 70s. And we would just watch Chuck Jones. You know, it was always my favorite ones, you know, was the Chuck Jones ones, you know, because he's got such a range of expressions and he's just so amazing. So he's one of my heroes. And of course, my mom and dad are my heroes too, because they're both illustrators. And my dad was actually a frustrated comic book artist. And a guy named Hilary Knight is also one of my heroes, like one of my heroes from when I was really little. He did Eloise. And he's got a great, you know, range of expressions and body language. And I don't know if any of you have ever read Eloise, but it's very simple line work, but it's all there. You know, his art is amazing. And then when I grew up, you know, it was more comics. You know, I was really into Wendy Pini and, you know, it was just, oh my God, I could, you know, comics, I could totally do this. But it started out as animation for certain. And we actually tried to get the Pro Animated. And it's on YouTube somewhere. You could actually see it. It's the company Titmouse in LA actually did animatics for it. And yeah, if you look it up on YouTube, you can see it. And the network was like, oh, we can't do this.
What's funny is that you might have a better chance of getting that produced completely today because the web offers you so many more opportunities.
Right.
Yeah, you know, HBO might take it, but
Yeah.
they may not because it is the Pro. But these days, you don't really need a network to do something
Right,
like that.
right.
Have you guys investigated that possibly? or-
We've been too busy to investigate it, but I think if it's investigatable,
Okay.
then Jimmy will do it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really good at that.
You mentioned your dad was a frustrated comic artist. So he actually tried to get into the industry? Does he have a great is that where you get your influence?
Yeah, both of them. They're both really amazing artists. And my dad, he didn't even get as far as, you know, showing his portfolio around. You know, he sort of got, you know, his dad was an engineer and he's like, what do you want to do that for? You'll starve, you know. So my dad actually went into advertising and he was like an art director and a creative director, but he had wanted to be a comic book artist.
Interesting.
And he actually started out, and I found out this last year, he liked, I can't think of the guy's name now. See, I'm blanking on everybody's name, but he used to do, you know, those really crazy faces for Mad Magazine, and he would try and, not March, even crazier, but he does love March Rucker, yeah. It was like back in the 50s and 60s. I can't think of the guy's name. But he would do these faces, and his mom was like, there's something wrong with him. I have to take him to a psychiatrist. But he was just imitating what he saw, you know. But yeah, he had wanted to be a comic book artist, and he ended up going into advertising because that was real job.
Interesting, yeah.
So.
Well, and you've done advertising work
I
before.
have.
And I was looking at some of your credits. I was surprised to see you did something for Nightline.
I did, I did some illustrations for Nightline.
This was back during the Ted Koppel days?
I think so.
Huh.
That was a long time ago. I think it was in the 90s. I can't
you-
believe I'm referring to the 90s as a long time ago.
What were those
bad.
illustrations? What, like,
It was about a giant guy who was like 23 miles tall. And I was trying to like do these illustrations to like show the comparison. That's all I can remember about it.
that's so funny. I just didn't expect you to be doing art for what was effectively a political news show.
Yeah.
What an you've had a pretty interesting career, wouldn't you say?
It's like, yeah, I have. Like, yeah, advertising was always really Now, a lot of you won't remember this because probably a lot of you weren't born yet. But there was these commercials where they decided to make the Arm & Hammer boxes talk to each other in the freezer, and they had like little
I
earmuffs
remember
and
that.
I did the storyboards for those.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh, and the vacuuming dogs too. Remember Arm & Hammer, the Carpet Fresh?
Yes.
And there was like a dog in a dress, pushing a vacuum. Yeah, those were my storyboards.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Any other questions from the audience? Go ahead.
You're a fan favorite, obviously. What was the first convention or signing or anything that you went to where you thought, oh, you like me, you really like me? What was it?
Oh,
What
I
was
don't
the first
know.
convention you went to where you realized the world liked you, that they were fans of you, that you had fans?
You know what? It happened. It was like, throwing a frog into a boiling pot of water, or is it a crab? I can never remember. It happened so slowly and steadily over time that I'm still like, what are all these people doing here? Oh, they want me to sign stuff? Okay. I didn't, because it just, I don't want to say how many years I've been doing this, but it's been a lot of years, over a couple of decades. And it's really been like a slow, steady thing. So there wasn't any one convention when I went, oh my goodness, look at me. I'm still always surprised when I see a line in front of my table. I'm always like, what are these people doing here? They need directions?
Talk about your that 12-issue run you did on Power Girl, which was unbelievably widely well received, and talk about the fact that you drew unapologetically the sexiest character in comics in the most sexy ways. And there's a lot of controversy and discussion about the portrayal of women in comics. Talk about making that series, because I think it was a pretty special moment for you guys.
That was, I love that character. And there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, but there's a guy, he's a massage therapist up in Canada. And like for 3 years he had been saying, you should do Power Girl, you should do Power Girl, you should do Power Girl. And a really nice guy, and I'm like, I don't know that character that well. And I started like looking at the character, and she's like, she's pretty cool, but she didn't have a lot to her at the, I think people had been trying to figure her out, and they were having trouble figuring her out. It's like she had 3 different origin stories, and nobody could pick which one. And Steve Wacker was the editor at DC at the time, and Jeff Johns was writing the JLA classified 4-issue mini that was all about her. And Steve said, come on, do Power Girl. We want you on this mini. I was like, I don't know, And he's like, think of her as the prose, more well-adjusted sister. And I was like, okay, I'm in. So I did that, and I'm like, she's a pretty cool character. And that sort of defined where she came from, that series. And then they wanted Jimmy and Justin on the actual Power Girl series, and they were looking for an artist. And Jimmy kept finding these artists and then losing them to, a different book. And he was getting so frustrated, and finally I was like, oh, I'll do it. What the heck, I'll just do it, right? I'll do it for 6 issues. And so we started working on it together, and I had so much fun on it. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it for 12 issues. I wanna do more. And I just decided to stay on it for a whole year. And I think the way we approached it was, okay, we have this girl. We know she's sexy. We know she has gigantic boobs. That's all been discussed, and that's, part of canon now. Now let's give her a job and a personality. So we set her in Park Slope in Brooklyn, New York. And I get like really obsessive. So I was like, okay, she's gonna have an apartment on this block because her bedroom window, you can actually see New York City, and if any bad stuff happens in New York City, then she can just jump out the bedroom window and be there in 5 seconds flat, and it'll be good. And I overthought everything, and I was like, okay, she has a cat, and this cat, I'm gonna make it personality just like Frankie Palmiotti, who was the cat that I had with Jimmy. That I didn't actually have with Jimmy. But she was there when I got there. She's really surly, and she would get even more surly every time we went to a convention and went on a trip somewhere. And I'm like, okay, if you have a cat and you're always on the road, the cat gets really pissed off and poops everywhere, just to show you how upset they are. And I was gonna make that Power Girl's cat, because Power Girl is always off saving the world. And the cat gets neglected and gets pissed off and poops outside the box, and she's got to clean it up, And I wanted Power Girl to, be a superhero, but she would have to deal with everyday human annoyances that we have to deal with. And that's how we wanted her to be sexy, but we wanted her to be approachably, lovably sexy.
Yeah.
And that's how we handled Power Girl.
You are also part of a rather exclusive club in comics of married couples that work, married professionals in comics. I just interviewed Mike and Laura Allred, who've been together for 34 years.
Wow, I did not know that. They don't look old enough to have been together for 34 years.
They have 4 grandchildren, too.
What?
Yeah, I know.
No way.
I was
Oh
pretty
my
shocked.
God.
But do you guys have like a club meeting where all the married couples come together or anything like that?
No, but it sounds like a fun idea.
I know married couples who work together outside of comics, and they're rather miserable, generally speaking. Because, happily miserable, if that makes any sense, if you know what I mean. Like, they just are always on each other. Married couples in comics seem very different. They generally seem to absolutely adore each other. How does that work for you and Jimmy?
I adore him. It's true. And I'm pretty sure he adores me because he tells me he does.
Oh.
And I think when you're a couple in comic books, you understand how difficult it can be. Like you have the deadlines and the late nights and
there's a craziness to comics,
and
too.
there's a craziness, and I think people in comics get it. And if you have one person who's not in comics and another person who is in comics, the person who's not in comics is like, well, why do you have to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning? And it's just, and it's not always the case, but sometimes it's the case. Sometimes you have a really understanding spouse. But when you're both in comics, I think you really have, a really high level of understanding of how difficult it can be.
That's interesting. We have time for one more question. We're almost out of time. If anybody's got a question before we wrap up here, go ahead, sir.
Are there any tips or advice you give to someone who wants to improve on their drawing skills?
Tips or advice for someone who wants to improve on their drawing skills?
I think it was Joe Kubert. It was either Joe Kubert, it might have been Jose Delbo, who's here, by the way, and I still love him. He was one of my teachers. Or maybe one of the other teachers at the Kubert School said, you have 1,000 bad drawings in you. You have to draw 1,000 pictures in order to get all of the bad drawings out of you. So I think that's just another way to say practice, practice, practice. But yeah, the more you draw, the better you get. And I think that's the only way to do it is just draw and draw and draw. Because if you look at the stuff I did when I first got into comics, except for the first comic, the first backup story that I ever did, which looks fantastic because I had Stan Drake inking me and he made me look good. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, oh man, I can't believe, It's just one of those things that you just have to just keep doing it over and over and over again. And use reference. I'm always using, how does that lawnmower look? Okay. But yeah, you just have to just keep doing it. And if you do have a portfolio on you, ask somebody who, has been doing it for a long time, like, okay, how can I improve and why does my foot look so bad? And how, I could improve on that foot or whatever you're having trouble with. So that's really the only idea, advice I can give you right now because I can't think of the other. There's more advice for you. I just can't think of it off the top of my head at this moment.
As my last question for you, outside of comics and what you do in this field, what are you passionate about?
Oh, what am I passionate about? Right now, it's taking a honeymoon with Jimmy, because we haven't taken a honeymoon yet. I want to go on a vacation so bad. Oh, man.
Where do you want to go?
I keep going Switzerland, no, Hawaii. Because we have, direct flights to Switzerland from Tampa Bay now. But I really want to go to Hawaii, because I just want to sit around in a hammock and have an umbrella drink and be somewhere. I mean, it's almost like, well, I'm in Florida. I'm already in a vacation spot, but I want to go to a different vacation spot.
Right.
So, yeah, I want a vacation. That's what I'm passionate about right now is a vacation.
I think that's a good thing to be passionate about. Amanda, it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank
Amanda
you.
Connor. You're so fun. You're so fun. I have actually a fantastic vacation spot for you. If you want to sit in the hammock, because that's what I do. Oh. It's a place in Mexico called Sayulita. It's an hour north of Puerto Vallarta.
Uh-huh.
Give me a second, I will show you a photo of me in the hammock.
Oh.
And it's a small little surfing town, about 5,000 people. And the place that I stay at, all they have is bungalows. Oh. And I will show you a photo of me on the beach. And you know how sometimes people take photos on their vacation, and like
Yeah.
it looks idyllic, but there's a million people around them.
Yeah.
I will show you this, and I will tell you that there was no one near me for 50 feet in either direction. So we're gonna let it. Are you unmiked?
I think so, yeah. Oh,
But-
here we go. This is this right here and try to right here. There we go.
Oh man, I can't. It's not. I'm not getting internet.
Oh no.
But it's literally of me in a hammock on the beach,
Oh.
and like none of the bungalows have windows, so
Ah.
you hear the ocean at night. And there's a maximum of 60 people that can be there. I've been there 3 times.
Wow.
The most people I've ever seen there was 27 people, and it's an amazing place. I'll send. I think I have Jimmy's.
Oh yeah, I
email
sent it
address.
because I'm the worst email correspondent in the world, and it'll get lost in my 10,000 emails that I haven't erased yet.
Hawaii is like my second home, but
Is it?
Mexico may be becoming my second home.
Oh no kidding.
This place is.
And you're on the West Coast, right?
I'm in
You're-
LA.
You're in LA.
Yeah, so it's a quick trip for me.
Yeah.
It's not coming up, so I will send you the photo. It's
Okay.
an amazing place.
I would love that.
Yeah, and it was a great place for a honeymoon too. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that sounds nice. I know I'm dying to like. Oh my god, I'm trying to go to
I think
you know a nice honeymoon spot. And just we haven't had a real vacation in a really long time. You know, and we don't really, you know, I don't count going to see my family on my dad's side during Mardi Gras vacation.
no, it's not. It's not. I'll send you the. I hope you guys like it. If you go to Hawaii, CB Cebulski can tell you all the great places to eat at on
Okay.
all the islands. And
Awesome.
Stuff like that. But, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, very cool.
Thank you so much.
Very much, and I'm really sorry about Jimmy not being able to make it today.
It's okay.
He's a mess. He was up all night coughing. Yeah, he's like, he was here Friday. You know, I was like, oh, I'm glad he was at least here Friday, but yeah,
Give him my best. Say hello for me.
I will. I
Thank you
definitely
very
will.
much.
Thank you. This was great.
This was a lot of fun.
This was really good.
Who is
No, this.
That's where you're going to be able to watch it later on.
Can I keep it?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Bye, Amanda.
Thank you so much. This was fun. Thanks for the. I really want to know where these chairs go. Are these?
I have
They
no
look
idea.
like the IKEA chairs, but they might not be. They the IKEA chairs. Because IKEA has a chair like this, but I don't. It looks more expensive than IKEA. It is.
It's IKEA?
It is. Oh my god.
No, she's excited by the chair. She wanted to know where she could get them.
It is. Because I was eyeballing this chair for a
Oh,
while.
IKEA.
Yeah.
And did you see that they can bend back too?
Oh.
Like we just turned off
Ooh.
that setting. It's one of
Uh-huh.
these things so that it can also rock that way. Yeah,
That's
they're
very
nice
cool.
chairs.
Did I spin too much?
At the beginning, you can
Okay.
The cool thing on this chair, which I like, is that if you look at the screen through the mesh, it looks like comic book dots. So
Oh,
like
it does?
sometimes on the
Cool.
camera, you get that. I think that was completely unintentional. But like on some of the camera shots, when I have like on your face and you like kind of like comic book dots on your side, it looks so cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, these are cool chairs. But I don't want them on my stage next year because people roll around.
Because people are like,
Yeah.
I mean, is there a way to lock them into place?
The only thing we could lock was the rocking.
Was the
this way.
rocking, yeah. I like these, and I know they're, because I actually sat and I thought about getting these, and they're so comfortable.
Next year, we're going to try to get, you remember Men in Black, those 8 seats? We'll
Yeah.
get some of those.
I actually bought one of those for Jimmy for his birthday, and it's got speakers in it.
Well, that's the
So we have
that's
Mark
the
in the back already.
Yeah.
Mark's over?
He's right there in the back.
I'm going to go through the head. And
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Was it a good interview?
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. All right, I'm
Awesome.
gonna let you talk to Harley.
Don't forget the bag.
Yeah. Luckily, no panelists have lost anything thus far. So far, so good.
That, or you can go on eBay and bid on it too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Oh yeah, thank you. We
I'm
appreciate
sorry
it.
I spun in the beginning.
No.
Don't worry. Enjoy the rest of
Totally.
the
Yeah.
con.
Thank you so much.
I am, definitely.
Another bottle. You need another
I think he actually has one. He's walking with. Oh, but it's almost empty, so I can actually refill it for him. Absolutely. It's right next to the power source, so if someone's gonna go through it, I'd rather be less of a loss for work. Oh, no. I'm not from dead. It's the end of the day. So your back, yeah, you can either put it back here with us, or you can put it on the back side of the stage. It's kind of whatever. Just so you know, it's being live web streamed, and it's also being recorded. I don't know if you ever, people want to know where to go if they're going later or not. So you guys will have the comment sign, which the audience has in mind. So Jonah's usually pretty good about answering questions from the audience, just so you know that doesn't happen. It's no way to everybody gets it. The only other thing is those chairs. So like, I mean, I was like, I love the chairs, but they like rotate and roll, and it's kind of bad. But so just try not. Yeah, it's like the fact that you can, like it's just like so hard not to. That's why we have better chairs next year because. Okay. Yeah, okay. No, I guess they can really just open it.
And they always do this stuff.
Okay, we'll have to do it. I would rather him be home and not sitting there. No, he's sitting.
I think we have pretty much one.
For
me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You gotta make it work at all.
And I just came back from a month ago, and that's all I did, just got on the beach and nothing. Nobody around. I wonder sort of.
Yeah, I think that's very, it works, there's like special exhibits as well, we don't have access to.
I'm not doing the White House, just doing 14. How are you? Just your thing. Yeah, much for you guys. Yeah.
Thank you guys, it's so, that's cool.
Yeah, I would have been here the other 2 days, not fitting the invitation. Next year.
You know, I think that I'll get the name, I'm sorry. There's a guest services crowd, but I think we'll go get your food for you. Because I heard them go get coffee for people.
They could see, that could be if they're like in the, like, celebrity camp, like the Rob's area, but like you're not already down there, right?
They were running artists out. I think possibly.
If they advertise.
Yeah. They have runners though, because I heard them just make a coffee run.
Food distribution has been a problem across, like, it's a bus for everybody, like, as the time grows, it's harder.
Every single year, orange shirts. Oh, I have no idea. And they just, it's like, well, what's your job? What do you do? What are you doing that for? Midwest